Hi there, Daniel Hall here, progressing, percolating, and evolving. And in today's video, I have something very special for you. I'm going to walk you through some of my very favorite public domain resources for your content, number one. And the second thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how to determine whether a bit of content is in fact in the public domain, which of course is a very important consideration. So with that, let's jump in right now. Now, before we get into this too far, if you love this kind of content, go ahead and Hulk smash that like button, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done that. Hit the bell notification so that you don't miss not a single great video or special report or ebook or other cool resource that I'm going to make available to you for free. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of it. So here are a few of my very favorite public domain resources and how to go about checking the copyright on those resources so that you know that you can freely use them. I do want to let you know that today's video is in fact sponsored by danielhallwebinars.com/free bonus, where if you head over to this QR code or this URL, you can grab these great free resources just for the asking. All I ask in return is your name and email address so that we can continue the conversation and I can continue to help you in your business. So let's get into the very first resource that I love. It's called hothytrust.org. And what HothyTrust is a consortium of different major universities who have all gotten together and agreed to digitize their available libraries. And of course, there's a lot of textual material at hothytrust.org. And the great thing about this is when you go to look for a particular topic, I put in tomato garden on this one, you can find some really great material. For example, I put in tomato garden, and this was one of the things that came up, easy one dish meals with Hunt's tomato sauce. And how do I know, or how would you know if you found this, whether the thing is actually in the public domain? Well, I have put a little red box around where it says rights, and you will see when the content is in fact in the public domain, rights that says public domain in the United States. Okay, that's how you know that this particular piece of content is in fact in the public domain. And I can guarantee you Google would have not digitized it and the HothyTrust would not have published it if it were anything but in the public domain. So again, they've done most of the heavy lifting for you. And it doesn't just go for HothyTrust. All the sites that I'm going to show you, they've done the same thing. They've done all of the public domain sort of work so that you can basically rely on them telling you that it's in the public domain because they are making a public announcement of it on their websites, just like the hothytrust.org is doing right here. So that's, if you're using HothyTrust, this is how you determine whether something is in the public domain. Let's go on to Gutenberg Project or Project Gutenberg. There's about 60,000 different books at this site. I love this site as well. It's at gutenberg.org. And once again, I just typed in tomato or tomato garden, and I was able to find this really cool project or this book called Tomato Cultural Practical Treatise on the tomato. Once again, when I went to the bibliographic record here, you'll notice the copyright status, and it says public domain in the USA. That's what you're looking for, okay? Let's go on to the next one. This is fun, all right? There are lots of public domain comic books and comic strips. And one of my favorite sites for this type of material is here at comicbookplus.com. And although it doesn't outwardly say, other than it says down at the very bottom here, public domain comic books and public domain comic strips, etc. Although it does have this statement that I've highlighted here for you, that all the content is free and legal. That's because it's all in the public domain. And by the way, not only great textual material here at Comic Book Plus, but all of the artwork is also in the public domain. So you could actually erase some of the words in the talk bubbles and put in your own information, your own, dialogue, and really come up with something very, very cool. And there's so much great material here at comicbookplus.com. So if you're into comic books, kind of fun, this is a great site, great resource. Now, we've talked about comic books, we've talked about textual material. What about art? What about clip art? So here's another great resource called openclipart.org, and I love this resource for clip art for whatever you're doing. And let's take a second here and just talk about this, because I'll get this question all the time where somebody will ask, "Hey, I found this. I think public domain content. Can I use it in my project for, a t-shirt, a new course, a phone camera case, whatever?" And my answer always is, if the content is in fact in the public domain, then you could use it for any reason, without asking for anyone's permission or paying any royalties, okay? Which, that's so cool that there is so much material out there, you could not exhaust it in probably 1,000 lifetimes, okay? That's the really great thing about public domain material, is it's really everywhere if you know where to look, and some very usable stuff. And by the way, at this site, how do I know that the material on openclipart.org is in the public domain? Well, I look at their licensing. And this is what you should do as well if you find content on a public domain site. Look at their licensing. Look what it actually allows you to do. Like it says here, I've highlighted the important parts, and it says, "We make it clear that you may use all clip art from OpenClipart, even for unlimited commercial use." Okay, that sounds good. Unlimited commercial use, right? Then it goes on to say, "Each artist at OpenClipart releases all rights to the images they share at OpenClipart." And then it goes on, the very last sentence here, that you could use it for any possible reason, okay? So again, this is the kind of statement that you're looking for when you are looking for potential public domain material. Okay, so the other cool thing, and you may have already noticed, that public domain material can be any type of content. We've talked about textual material already. We've talked about comic books. We've talked about clip art. But here at Pexels.com, you could actually get some really high-end stock photography also in the public domain, as well as some great video content here as well. So video clips, for example, people shaking hands or people grocery shopping. They'll have great little snippets, 30-second, 60-second, 90-second clips that you could then use in some of your other content. Again, Pexels.com is a great resource. And how do I know that is in the public domain? Well, I go to their licensing. I look what is allowed. It says all videos and photos on Pexels is free to use. Attribution is not required, okay? Which, by the way, that's another big question I get. I'll get somebody that says, "Well, I found this, book or this special report. Do I need to credit the author, or do I need to say that this material came from this particular work?" And the answer is, if it is truly in the public domain, no, you do not have to attribute it. It's good form. I would recommend that you attribute it, but it is not legally required. okay, which is really, really important that you understand. Okay, so, and this is how I know at pexels.com, great place for, again, videos and stock photography as well. Now, so we've talked about basically everything but music, but audio. So you could actually go to freepd.com, great little site here for music. And you could actually look at the categories. And although it's a little small, you know that if you are going to, the very first one here, Beat Thee, okay, there's like a little narrative there, a little note that says it says January 2020, this music is available for commercial and non-commercial purposes. That's why? Because it's in the public domain. Whoever created this piece of music put it into the public domain. They gave it essentially to the public to use without having to attribute it. It's a great thing. Now, the Mac Daddy, in my humble opinion, of all public domain resources actually comes from the US federal government. And where I go to find US federal government content is right here at USA.gov. So henceforth and evermore, if you are looking for public domain material produced by the US federal government, I want you to think USA.gov, just like it were Google, okay? But it's basically a search engine just for federal content, okay? By the way, I'll just say here as well that this only applies to federal content, okay? In other words, content produced by the US federal government. So not any other government entity, like not your state, not your county, not your city, okay? None of that. Only the US federal government is in the public domain. If it's produced by your state, it's probably copyright and you would need to ask permission to use that, okay? Not so here at the US federal government. So once again, I went to USA.gov, I typed in tomato, found some really cool stuff at the USDA, the agricultural site. And how do I know whether that material is in fact in the public domain? Well, once again, there is licensing that is spelled out on the site itself. And I will just warn you here that depending on what government site that you're on, this information is generally fairly well buried, and it's not uniform across sites, unfortunately, and nor is the language uniform across sites. But you're looking for some statement like this one, where it says most information presented at the USDA website is considered public domain information. Public domain information may be freely distributed and copied. Then it does say credits are requested, not required. Okay. Important that you understand that. It is requested. It is not required. That's why they say requested instead of required. Also, the other thing that I really like about what it says here on this site is that, hey, most everything on this site is in fact in the public domain, but we do have some copyright protected material here as well. And then it goes on to say the USDA has made every attempt to identify and clearly label that content. Okay, so you're looking for some statement like this on the US federal government website where you are pulling the information from, okay? Super important that you find this because you may need it a little later on. Now, by the way, I love getting content from the US federal government, and the primary reason for that is the US federal government has the money and has no issues with hiring some of the best credentialed experts and PhDs in the world to create their content, okay? So actually, I put together an extensive training course called Federal Green, where I teach you step by step exactly how to find US federal government content and then convert that content into dollars into your bank account, okay, by creating products and special reports and books and all kinds of even physical products from this. So if you're interested in that, then there's, I think, a very special deal that I have at the very bottom of that page. But do head over to danielhallwebinars.com/federal green. I'll put that link in the show notes and go check it out if you are interested in using federal government content. So head on over to danielhallwebinars.com/federal green if you're interested in using this kind of content in your projects. And like I said, it's usually very, very good stuff. So let's finish up here by talking about some of the best practices when making this determination, when you're doing this evaluation. First off, if you're going to use public domain material in any of your projects, make sure to take and keep a screenshot of how you determined the public domain status. Okay. In addition to that, you also want a link to where you found that public domain language. Okay. Super important that you get both, because if you just get the link, there have been times when it gets moved. All right. Or the language gets changed. You want to be able to rely on what you're finding at these sites in the future. So make sure you get a screenshot of them. By the way, this often, or most often, this comes up if you are publishing Kindle books, public domain Kindle books, or public domain books to the Kindle platform. Amazon will often reach out and say, hey, prove that this is in the public domain. This is how you prove it. You send them a screenshot and a link. Hey, this is where I've made the determination. And that's happened to me many, many times, and it always does the trick. But the fact of the matter is that even if you're not publishing on Amazon, or you could get a knock on the door or cease and desist letter saying, hey, you're using some of my copyrighted material, and you're like, I went to this site here, and I'm relying on this language right here. If you have an issue with this, go back to them, okay? In other words, go back to the website where I found it, that is basically announcing to the world that the material is in fact in the public domain. That's a much bigger problem for them than me. So once again, I love using public domain material. There is so much of it available, and it could really super enhance any of your projects or many of your projects. And the best part of it is that you have a jump start. You're not staring at a blank page. You have something to start with in your content and in your projects. And of course, you could use these anywhere. Okay. Again, going back to what I said earlier, you could use it in blog posts. You could use it in special reports, and books, and audiobooks, and courses, and TV shows, and YouTube videos, wherever. You could use this material, and that's the beautiful thing about it. So I hope that you got value from today's video. If you have, please go ahead and Hulk smash that like button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm and allows this video to be viewed by many more people. Of course, also make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done that, because I have so many cool, great things planned that you definitely don't want to miss. So go ahead and again, subscribe and hit the little bell notification. And I try to be a blessing to you. I try to help you in your business and in your life. And I want you to take the cue. I want you to emulate what I do. I want you to go out and be the blessing, okay, for those people that you were put on this planet to help, okay? So go out and be the blessing.